along with 8 former Grand Prix world champions and top-class world racing drivers for what has been billed as the biggest motor racing event ever to hit the Arabian Gulf, the Dubai Grand Prix. It's not, of course, a fully qualified Formula One Grand Prix. There are a number of Formula One cars here simply to do demonstration laps. The main event is a 10-lap celebrity saloon car event with all the drivers driving Citroen CXs, and there is a super classic sports car event. So the whole thing is a potent mixture of razzmatazz and pizzazz and racing nostalgia with a certain amount of competition thrown in. And it's all been put together by a Birmingham entrepreneur called Martin Hone.
When we first came here, first and foremost, there were no roads to do the racing on, and then we found out there were no racing cars here or racing drivers. So the logistics that have gone into this means that we've moved something like 480 people across the world, 120 racing cars on the sea in containers, by air freight, across land from France, and then going around the world linking sponsors and television links of interest. So by the time we got it all here, designed the circuit, built the circuit, got it all out, it's fair to say that, yes, we've had a few traumatic moments.
How much, any idea how much it's cost?
I think at the end of the day, with the government's investment and the sponsorship backing, we will have spent something in the region of £2 million sterling. But I think when you measure that against the potential worldwide interest that has come to the event as far as publicity and promotion and tourism for the city, this city at the moment has every hotel full to capacity. So the actual return as far as investment is concerned for the city will be very high indeed.
It's billed as a Grand Prix, but it's really very much of a mixed sort of nostalgic bag, isn't it?
I think it's fair to say that the very reason we call it a Grand Prix to start with was that when I first introduced the idea of international road races, the local population genuinely believed that we were bringing their type of racing onto the streets, and their type of racing is racing camels. So we then checked with the FIA in Paris. We found out that there were things like the Sinhalese Grand Prix, the Indonesian Grand Prix, which are not for Formula One cars, but it actually registers motor racing in the minds of the people. Our aim and ambition is to develop this in such a way that in due course, perhaps 3 years, we will have educated the local people sufficiently enough to say, yes, we like this event as a tourism event, a publicity promotion event, and we will go for a World Championship Grand Prix.
But is it really motor racing?
Most certainly. Every one of these guys out here today, I can promise you, will be busting a gut for the prizes because we've got some beautiful prizes for them.
Here comes the parade, led by the Aston Martin
The first event was the celebrity race with 15 Citroen CXs driven by some of the old champions like Sterling Moss and Innis Ireland and some of the new like Bruno Giacomelli. John Watson was in pole position, followed by Irishman David Kennedy and old-timer Dan Gurney.
Very nervous about it.
Right from the start, it was almost like stock car racing with bent cars and bits of wreckage all over the track. On lap 2, drivers began taking shortcuts across the sand, and Kennedy spun in the middle of the pack.
And that is 2 more very damaged Citroens, I'm afraid. As the last
Lap 3, and Roy Salvadori lost it on Paddock Bend and ricocheted right across the track.
A lot of smoke coming from that car.
Only 6 cars made it to the finishing line, with Giacomelli comfortably ahead of Mark Suter and David Kennedy, with Dan Gurney's battered car limping along behind. You haven't even got full lock on your front wheel.
No, I've got an automatic brake on there.
What was it? And you looked terribly hairy coming into that first bend, all of you together.
Well, yeah, they were using me as the brakes.
What about this ploy of yours of actually leaving the track and going across the sand? I mean,
well, I was forced to do it.
Yeah? You mean for
Once
survival?
In the beginning, it looked as though no one was going to finish. Yeah. So I figured, well, that requires a different technique.
Yeah, you've got it.
No, I mean, look at my poor car.
Yeah, well, look at mine.
I mean, when I go back into the guy, no.
What?
I backed into him.
Did you?
I got hit 18 times.
When you all came into that first bend, I mean, it looks so hairy.
The last bend was all right.
It was 16 cars together.
Yeah, well, it was back here. There were guys arriving 20 miles an hour faster than they could ever make the turn, hoping to bang off of somebody else. Ruin the whole thing.
It was unbelievable. The thing about it, I think Jack Brabham's used to driving in the desert. You know, he was very good on the sand.
But I mean, that bottom end, that bottom corner, as you all
Unbelievable, yeah. Well, the thing is, the only way to overtake people was to take to the sand dunes. Well, once one or two started, everybody had to follow suit. Otherwise, you lost 3 places, you know.
Did you get shaken at all? I mean,
well, no, Kennedy sort of outbraked me down here, and so he took the side. And then I think we had a schmozzle when somebody spun on the first lap, and everybody went in the back of each other. It was an inevitable thing, you know, like a Piccadilly Circus type stuff.
What happened was I was right up in the front, and I felt I could easily win in the first 3. But what happens, I got a tap from the rear by a nameless driver, spun the car around, and I just faced the whole pack. And I thought, this is apocalypse now. And I tell you, one after the other just stuck their car into the side of mine, so it's a complete rag order. So I said, well, what have I got to lose? I've started last, I might as well go like the proverbial bat out of hell.
I had an unfortunate thing where the cars in front of me suddenly stopped and one hit me in the back, and it bent the front insufficiently to break an electrical connection, so of course the engine would turn but not start. So therefore I had a bad race. I was shunted into the ones in front actually, and it was very early on, and one of those unfortunate things that happens. But my car, I must say, after the problem we had in practice, was feeling very good.
what do you think of Dan Gurney's ploy of actually cutting the track short by going across the sand?
Quite frankly, I think it's disgraceful. I must be honest, yes. I think that...
At the end, everybody was doing it.
It's fun. Yes, but of course they do it because you have to. If a man's going to come past like that... I didn't think it was good. I think that the racing is serious, even if it's a fun race, and I feel that the road here, the track here is good track, but if one's going to go through and litter it with sand and go past people when they're going on the right road, I think it should cause a penalisation.
Because you were standing that bottom end, weren't you?
Yeah, I saw a lot of it happen, yeah.
Yes.
And I didn't think it was funny. I mean, yes, it's a funny idea, but if one's going to have a funny race, you make a funny race.
And coming up towards me now, very, very quickly indeed. Traffic always changes now.
Then it was the turn of 2 Formula One cars, starting with the Theodore, to have a go at a flying lap record on a track really far too tight for Formula One and slippery with the scattered sand. On the day, John Watson's new McLaren was considerably faster than the Theodore, averaging just over 90 miles an hour. Followed by the first public appearance of the Aston Martin Minion, driven by Derek Bell, £500,000 worth of car with over 550 horsepower, aimed at the 1982 Le Mans. And then the race that many of the crowd had come to see, 15 top-class international sports car drivers who'd really burned up the track during practice the day before. Marshall spent 9 laps chasing John Brindley in the 1966 McLaren, finally squeezing past to win on the very last bend.
It wasn't super scrap. John's a very hard goer. He's a good driver and he's safe as houses. and he jumped the start a little bit, and he got in the lead. It was very difficult to get by him, particularly as he appeared to have a lot more muscle up the straight than us.
Is it a difficult track to overtake on?
Very difficult. These are very wide cars, and John's a very good driver, and he wasn't going to leave me any holes. And there was a lot of oil on the track, and Nick Mason put his Ferrari into the boonies and was holding everybody up. And John appeared to slow down a little bit, and I managed to pull him in, and then he went very slow. I don't know whether he missed the gear or what, coming out of one of the hairpins, and I was able to get by him. In fact, there's a slight mark on my front wing, and he suddenly stopped.
Well, there it is, Dubai Grand Prix Day, all over by the champagne and the prize giving. Certainly a historic day for Dubai, but a marvellous jamboree of motor racing for anybody, with the cream of the world's drivers having a go. And if all that bumping and boring and general mayhem in the celebrity car race proved anything, it surely was that there was no absence of competition. Perhaps the most staggering fact is that it all took place on a track that didn't exist just 3 months ago. With that sort of commitment, who's to say that Dubai won't eventually win itself a place permanently on the year's motor racing calendar?